Hello, I'm Mark Hall-Patton. I'm the administrator of the Clark County Museum, and I want to welcome you to the museum. Today I want to show you a new exhibit that we have here. This exhibit will go through into the end of 2016, and it is a look at training gunnery students at the Flexible Gunnery School at the Las Vegas Army Airfield. It was the first flexible gunnery school in America, and it was the beginning of what we think of as Nellis Air Force Base, which is actually celebrating its 75th anniversary this year. So let's take a walk in. Now you might wonder why we have an air base here. Well, apart from the fact that we have 362 days of sunshine every year, and we had a large piece of desert out there that could be set aside so bombing and gunnery practice could be done over the desert. Early on, this area was identified by the Air Service, before it was even the Army Air Corps, as a possible site for a training base. It's December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor is bombed, the war begins, and we are already training gunners here. The idea behind a flexible gunnery school is different than other gunnery schools. In World War II, in the massive bombers that we had at that time, the B-24, the B-17, later the B-29, you actually had men that were standing at the side of the planes, shooting out through holes in the sides or in turrets, either top, bottom, front, or back. And they had to be trained how to fire a machine gun at an oncoming airplane. Now that's different than firing across a steady field, because the airplanes are going up and down and sideways, and you're going up and down and sideways. They started out firing shotguns, just doing skeet practice. They actually had early machine guns that actually only fired BBs to get you used to the idea of rapid fire. Then it went into learning how the guns worked in planes. And one of the things they had to do is figure out, well, were you actually hitting anything when you were practicing? So they would use toe targets like this one, and they would take and paint the points of the bullets. Every gunner had a different color. We also have over here what people were practicing with. You saw a 30 caliber bullet there. These are 50 caliber rounds. And when you look at that, that's 100 rounds, and that would give you about 7 seconds worth of firing. So we have a number of different cases here that talk about what went into the training here, both pilot training and gunnery training. But one of the other things that they had to do was, again, find out whether the gunners were hitting what they were aiming at. And that was all done with photographs and movie cameras. And interestingly, they didn't have enough gun cameras, so they pressed into use commercial cameras in order to have some idea of whether the training was working. But we talk about what was going on here, the kinds of training, all the things that you might have seen at that time. I always like to point out the life cover with the t-shirt on it. That is one of the earliest logoed t-shirts that you will ever see in the United States. Not one of the things that we would think of necessarily here, but that was part of it. And some of the other programs. At one point we did a program that was called Operation Pinball, where we used rounds that were actually not metal. They were actually what was called frangible. They were clay that had been pressed with a resin, and if those rounds hit the plane, they would just powder. And the idea was they would take the P-63 King Cobras, in the nose of the prop, they would put a light in there, and as you were firing at that plane, if you hit the side of the plane, the light would go on and look like a pinball machine. Well, I want to thank you for watching today, and I hope that you'll come out and see Training the Gunners, the Flexible Gunnery School exhibit here at the museum. Remember, we are only open 7 days a week, and it is only $2 a head. We are open 9 to 4:30 all 7 days, so do come out and see us. We are the best bargain in the Vegas Valley, and I hope to see you here.